Come on, Annie. Let's go to the movies.
This is the Cinereelists, episode 553. My name is James. I'm here with special guest Nathan from the Network Special Podcast. How's it going, Nathan?
I'm good. It's good. It's good to be back.
Yeah, definitely. This podcast is a movie podcast where we talk about movies.
Yes.
And also we list movies, or rank them, rather. You've been on it a few times. First time was way back in episode 359. Almost 200 episodes ago was your first appearance on this podcast. Where we talked about amazing stories. Remember we went through your favorite.
That was such a great. I think that's the only other time I've been on, right?
Nope, you were on episode 476.
Oh, that's right. For Nobody.
Where we talked about Nobody.
That's right. I forgot.
Yeah. Where we talked about Nobody. So it seems like about every 100 or so.
Yeah, I think that's a good rhythm.
It's a good ratio.
Yeah,
for sure. Welcome back, Nathan.
Thank you.
I appreciate you being here. So your podcast, I think we talked about the last time you were on, but that was like 100 episodes ago.
Yeah, sure. Network Special.
Have you ever heard of pod fade?
No.
Pod fade is an actual industry term for podcasts that don't make it past the 7th episode. The vast majority of podcasts that are started don't make it past episode 7. And the percentage of, I forget how they phrased it. Basically, if you can make it past episode 7, there's a high percentage chance that you're going to stick with it. What episode is the Network Special podcast on?
So, what's funny is when we first started, we recorded, I think, 8. And then we didn't release any of them.
Oh, you didn't even put them out there?
No, because we were waiting. We were something happened. Oh, my partner got a TV show.
Oh, okay. That's a good reason.
Yeah. So it was like, oh, I'm gonna have to wait. So then we just didn't do anything with it. And then once he got the rhythm of doing what he was doing on the show, we like signed up with this little podcast thing called Golden Ox Studio, based out of Cleveland. It's just one of our friends who has a podcast recording studio, and he has a little network. Jeremy, I'm sure would agree with this. It's really just a studio, but
it's like a little housing area for podcasts. Sure.
Yeah. So I would record online with him, he would be in the studio and I would be in here in Florida.
Okay.
And now I don't even record with him at all, but I still publish it under his podcasting portal. Anyways, he was like, "Hey, come do it with our. I would love to produce your show and edit it and all that stuff." We're like, "Okay, cool." So then we jumped back in, and we hit episode 60.
Wow.
And then he decided to leave the show for some woman.
Okay.
That he's marrying now, some floozy. I'm just kidding. I haven't met her. I'm sure she's perfect. I'm sure she's fine and perfect.
Sure.
So now we have a new host for what I'm now dubbing season 2.
Yeah, I noticed that you restarted everything.
Yeah, my other friend Colin, who was these are both old comedy partners when I was doing stand up and sketch. And he lives in Columbus, and we've just been recording, and now we're on we just posted episode 6 on Saturday of season 2.
Sure.
Yeah, so 66 episodes right now.
So now you got to get to episode 8 all over again to make sure this is going to stick again.
We've recorded it. We have recorded.
Oh, you're already up to 8.
Yeah, we have them recorded. We just haven't posted them yet. Yeah.
Nice. Awesome. Well, congratulations. You beat the odds.
Thank you. Trust me, those odds they definitely are hard to beat. You do feel that drag when nothing's happening, and you look at those stats and it's like 5 downloads this week.
Right.
Okay, cool. Whatever. And you can tell like 4 of them are from your region. So you can tell you just like signed into different computers on accident and or whatever.
Sure. Well, I mean, I looked at your YouTube video views. They're not bad.
Yeah, the
I mean,
YouTube's
they're not.
interesting.
You're not going viral or anything, but neither
No.
are we. I'm not judging,
Yeah.
but
I'll say
um,
our biggest play
mhm.
anywhere is definitely TikTok.
Really?
And all I do is I post a clip from whatever we're watching. I don't even post our podcast. I just
Uh-huh.
because that would be useless. No one would click on those. But I post just a clip of whatever show that we're reviewing.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I'll explain what it is. And then recently, like if it's a lot of times it's like we just did. The premise for the show is we do TV specials, like one-time events that were meant to be aired once, and
Forgotten
they
about.
yeah, and or I think some people have intentions of replaying them. Like Christmas special gets played every year.
Sure.
Like Rudolph or something. But basically, you have to be home to watch it. Before VHS, this was a big, you just
Mhm.
it was must see TV kind of stuff. And so we just talk specifically about those. So if it's a show like a sitcom or something, we don't talk about it. Has to be something that was intended to be a one-time showing or an appointment-based show.
Mhm.
And so we just did for Halloween, we just did the Geraldo devil worship exposing Satan's underground
Sure.
2-hour special, and it's just a complete train wreck. We recently did with my old partner, we did the Geraldo opening Al Capone's vaults,
I remember that.
which was
Yeah.
also another train wreck, but also one of the most watched TV specials of all time up to that point, and made his career.
Sure.
Like he had,
Well, that and getting a chair thrown at him.
well, that came later because the
Did it come
show.
later?
What? Okay, so like he won like a Pulitzer, some crazy thing for this like expose that he barely did, right?
Huh.
And then he got fired because he got mad at the people who wanted to edit one of his stories. And so he was just on some boat, like just traveling the ocean. And someone was like, "Hey, we got this idea. You want to do this little Al Capone's vault thing?" And so he did it. And it became this massive hit, even though it was widely hated and panned because it
Huh.
didn't reveal anything.
Mhm.
But he also got insane views. And so they were like, "Hey, you want a show?"
That's
And
wild.
then comes the chair and all that stuff later. Yeah.
Right. I would have never guessed. I always thought he was popular because of the show, and then he got the specials off the back of that, but
No, the
I guess
specials
not.
came first. Now the devil one was during the show. I think it's on the same set, and
Mhm.
I think so.
Hmm.
I'm not sure if he had the brawl with the chair before or after
Yeah.
the devil worshiping one, but in the devil worshiping one again is another one where it was like everyone who had anything to do with this just did not want to touch it after it was done. Like everyone regretted it. Advertisers dropped out from it. Like it was just a complete disaster. But
Sure.
again, a hugely watched
And
thing
th
though.
what was this aired on? Like, was this like an ABC,
Whatever
CBS
ch-
thing?
whatever channel I'm assuming, whatever hosted Geraldo. I don't
Okay.
remember exactly which network it was.
Right, but it was like one of the major networks. It wasn't like a
I think so, yeah.
obscure cable channel or something like that.
No, it wasn't like yeah, no, it wasn't like Bravo or something. Like,
Right.
no, this would have been a time also when I don't think tons of people would have had cable
It was like
as
it
much.
was like the big 3 and local channels, and that's pretty much it,
Yeah.
unless you had cable.
I think Fox was around at this time,
Mhm.
like coming out new and I mean I'm probably not new, but sorry, don't like call in and like say like this guy's doesn't know what he's talking about. Like, yes, that is true. I don't know what I'm talking about. So please just know that I'll get things wrong.
I just find it wild that there was a talk show host that got hit by a chair. I was a child, and somehow I absorbed this.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Like, how did that moment trickle? I didn't see it live. I didn't watch Geraldo. Nobody in my family watched Geraldo.
Well,
How did that enter my
so
subconscious? Like,
a
how did that
couple
become a pop culture moment?
okay, so there's a couple things that I know. I know so obviously the news, like if you would have caught any kind of news just happened, that would have picked it up.
Okay,
Any like entertainment tonight or something like that would have picked it up. You might have seen that in passing. But
maybe.
also Weird Al parodies those things.
Okay.
In UHF, he does a Geraldo kind of character who opens Al Capone's glove compartment, and he
Sure.
gets hit by a chair and a Nazi, like all this stuff happens to him. So
Right.
I like a lot of the stuff that my references to big pop cultural things come from watching the parodies of them on
Mhm.
Saturday Night Live or Weird Al or whatever,
Right. Well, I definitely saw UHF. I'm
Yeah.
sure I knew about Geraldo Rivero and getting
Yeah,
hit by a
definitely.
chair in the nose, right? Didn't he break his nose or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I definitely knew about that before I saw UHF. But
So yeah, so then just I don't know, you were just
I was plugged
plucky
in.
little
I
kid.
was plugged in.
Yeah. Yeah, you were dialed in every night watching the Entertainment Tonight.
I did watch Entertainment Tonight, not like on a regular basis, but I remember knowing what it was and like
Yeah.
watching it. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's still on to this day with that music.
Good for them.
Wild.
Good for them.
Well, welcome to the show.
Thank you for
Nathan.
having me.
If you hadn't noticed, Kyle and Zach are out. They're both traveling.
I was wondering if they were coming in later or what was happening.
No, they're not coming in later. They're out of state.
Okay.
They're occupied with their special ladies. So,
Oh.
yeah. So I had to get a guest host. I've been dying to talk Clerks 3 with somebody. This was the perfect opportunity because neither of those two guys care at all, which is their prerogative, and they're probably better for it once we actually get into our thoughts on Clerks 3.
Yeah.
But I, for some reason, still care enough to watch it. And so I was hoping that you would as well. And turns out, yeah, that was the motivation you needed to watch it, evidently.
Totally. I'm a if I know that there's a finite end to something, like I'm happy to indulge in it. So, like I was a big Kevin Smith fan at the beginning, like everyone was, and then I'm sure just as with everyone, there's waves and there's mostly downhill kind of stuff right now. But like, I'm probably gonna watch everything he does just because of this obligation to some childhood, like to some younger
Sure.
version of me. Like Ricky Gervais, like after Extras, it's not great, but I will watch every freaking thing he does just with the hope for some glimmer or shimmer of that former thing.
Sure.
And I think Clerks 3 had some of those moments, I think all these things have some of these moments. So I'm
Right.
happy to take some time out of my busy day to
See what he's up to.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I think I generally have the same working relationship with Kevin Smith. Just that I'm actually a fan of the person.
Sure.
And some of the things he does that are less outward expressions of art and more like analysis. Like,
Yeah.
I like hearing Kevin Smith talk. I'll listen to podcasts of him
Sure.
talking and laughing with people and joking and those types of things. But it seems to me that the moment he writes it down on paper and then has other people recite it, seems to have like what's the word, like when the result is less over time.
Diminishing
returns.
Yeah.
Diminishing returns for sure when he goes through that process on something.
He's definitely one of those guys where he doesn't need any prompting to talk for 5 hours straight.
For sure.
You can just put a microphone in front of his face and he can just go. I don't know how anyone does that. I need to be back and forth with someone. I couldn't just go.
Sure. Yeah. I agree. Could not do it. Okay, so we're going to talk Clerks 3. We're also going to we're going to rank all of Kevin Smith's films. Both of us have seen all of his films that we could watch.
That we could get
There's one that we literally can't watch.
Our non-crypto hands on.
Right. Before we do that, I need to remind you of a few things. There's a video version of this podcast on YouTube. Go to YouTube, search Cinereelists. You'll find us there. You could support us on Patreon at patreon.com/Cinereelists, or you could leave us an Apple Podcast review. That one's free. Just go there, leave us a review, leave us a star ranking, 5 stars only. Thank you.
Yeah, you should see our reviews. They're amazing.
Yeah, do all those things, and I guess we're gonna get into it with Clerks 3 right after this clip.
What's the movie going to be about?
It's gonna be about an hour and a half. I hate long movies.
It's about him working here.
Wow, meta. I've never seen a whole movie set in a convenience store before.
Right? Thank you. I'm gonna fill the script with all the weird me and Dante have ever said or seen around here over the years.
Oh, you should put in that stuff you used to say about the Death Star contractors.
Get sued by Disney? That. Besides, I don't want this movie to be about other movies. I want it to be about me. It's my flick, so I want to write about the things that I do. Like how we play hockey on the rooftop. I've never seen that done in a movie or a TV show, even though it's just practical.
Remember that fight where I hit you in the face with the bread? Oh, that could be a scene.
Or the time I spit water on that old guy. That's like the opening scene.
Ooh, I got an idea. Maybe Jay and Silent Bob could be characters.
That is the dumbest idea I've ever heard.
That was Clerks III, an American comedy film written, produced, directed, and edited by Kevin Smith, starring Brian O'Halloran, Jeff Anderson, Trevor Furman, Austin Zajur, Jason Mewes, Rosario Dawson, and Kevin Smith. The official IMDb plot synopsis for Clerks III is: Dante, Elias, and Jay and Silent Bob are enlisted by Randall after a heart attack to make a movie about the convenience store that started it all. Pretty good plot description.
Yeah.
It's all generally there, I would say.
Yeah.
Spoiler free. You're the guest. You've seen all of Kevin Smith's movies. What did you think? First of all, what's your relationship with Clerks? How'd you feel about Clerks 2? In short, and now Clerks 3. Because you kind of have to have a little bit of context there, I think.
Yeah. I mean, you could certainly watch Clerks 3 without having seen the other two, but it would be...
You'd be so lost.
Well,
Why would any of it matter to you?
You wouldn't care. You wouldn't care at all. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
I don't know how anyone cares about this movie that doesn't have some relationship with the other ones. But Clerks, like I hadn't seen Clerks. This is kind of funny. I think I saw Mallrats first.
Mm-hmm.
I think I can't remember if I might have seen Clerks like later in my Kevin Smith journey.
Mm-hmm.
I might have seen Chasing Amy and Dogma first, even just probably based on when things came out on DVD, because I was collecting DVDs at the time.
Sure.
But I liked Clerks as much as anyone. I actually don't know if I like it as much as I liked Mallrats at the time. As much as I liked Mallrats at the time,
Mm-hmm.
is not the same amount of love I had for Clerks.
Sure.
And so, but I liked it. I liked, just as much as any of us like something interesting and new, and especially when you're in your 20s, And Clerks 2, I certainly watched it when it came out. I think I saw it in the theater, and it was. I think I liked it, but I didn't think it was necessarily a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
And so this one was. I think this one's. I don't know if we're jumping straight into it, but I think this one's better than Clerks 2, only because it at least tries to evoke the original feeling of the first one. And if Clerks isn't a good movie, if let's say Clerks is not a good movie, it still has a good feeling from that time frame.
Sure.
So anything that can, and it seems like, based on, I just went through a big binge of all of his later ones. It seems like now any movie he makes now is just him. I can see him like weeping as he's writing the ending of all his movies about his life. Seems like that's what all these movies are like now.
Sure. Yeah, he's definitely in a time of life where he's very self-introspective, and you can see it in his art over and over and over again, for sure.
Yeah.
And also, I think he wants to grow as a filmmaker and like evoke emotion other than laughter with the things he does.
Yeah.
But he does. I don't think he knows how to do that other
Yeah.
than playing against his own nostalgia for things he's created and the assumed attachment other people have to it as well. which is probably true. Like,
Yeah.
probably why I keep watching is because I have some kind of nostalgic attachment to things from the past.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a sucker for any kind of verse, any kind of universe.
Mhm.
Like, so I
That's part of it for you.
yeah, like I love when things have a world out there and there's multiple angles on these worlds.
Sure.
Um, and so I cut those things a little bit more slack probably than would if these were just standalone movies. But so when I watch these, even the worst ones still give me some kind of like comfort food
Mhm.
feeling because it's like, oh, we're back here again in this world that I used to really love.
Mhm.
And oh, that's a funny callback, or whatever, that kind of stuff. So
Sure.
there is a definite comfort foods guilty
Guilty pleasure element
feel.
to it.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, no, that's kind of the same reason I continue to watch Kevin Smith movies. I've gotten to the point where I don't expect any of them to be particularly good.
Yeah.
But given the opportunity to watch some random movie that also might not be good, I'll pick a Kevin Smith one. You know what I
Sure.
mean? Because I'm
Yeah.
invested on some level beyond it just being good or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have all of these like, when you have a kid and you're married and you're working full time and you're doing all this stuff, like you have like a time period of when you can just watch something.
Mhm.
And so I have all of these kind of in my head. I have these like checklists of like, oh, I need to. So over the pandemic, I like basically watched every Marvel TV and movie show in chronological order.
Mhm.
Don't do that. Just save yourselves
Chronological by release or
no,
by
by
event?
so like sometimes I would watch one of the movies and then I would watch season 3 episode 12 of Marvel, of
Daredevil or something.
yeah, something like that. But it would the one that was Agents of Shield.
Mhm.
And then it would be like 4 of those episodes and then it would be like now you jump into this show. Like it was kind of fun. I mean, I think it helped in that I wasn't watching like 9 seasons of Agents of Shield in a row. Like I was able to jump in
Mhm.
and out because that's a drag after a while. So like I'm watching all those, then I'm like, oh, I gotta watch all the DC universe, which is the worst universe there is right now. And when you called me for this, I was like, oh, I can finish my View Askew verse.
Sure. Get caught up.
Yeah, I can get that checklist done.
Interesting. Okay, so I don't think I've gotten a feel for what you actually think about Clerks 3 itself.
Okay. So yeah. Okay, so it's very much a so let's just take it by like so the acting like I always like Dante
Mhm.
Hicks. I always like him. I always think he out of all the characters maybe he's the most effective actor, but only because I think he's just given the most kind of things to do. I don't know if
Sure.
he's great. He's not great. But you can tell as a person who wasn't going to become an actor that he's able to deliver the lines in the way that Kevin Smith needs him to. And so I always appreciate that about someone who's not,
Sure. Well,
in that,
he's going to deliver the lines good enough for a black and white no budget movie from 1994.
Yes, right.
But this is not a black and white movie
Sure,
from 1994.
Sure. I wasn't emotionally moved by him.
Right.
That's not what I mean. But I'm just saying like I wouldn't say he's a good actor. I just
Sure.
out of all of the people in the movie, I mean, I guess except like Rosario Dawson, of course, like
It's
of
amazing
course, like
how
real-
much better she is than everybody else in the
yeah,
movie.
exactly. Like real actors, of course, are pulling off
Right.
this stuff.
You kind of forget how bad most of the people are in these movies until you throw a Rosario Dawson in the mix. And then
Right.
you're like, oh, right.
Yeah, exactly. And like Randall's just doing what he does. Like he doesn't really have much room for anything. He says his things. So like I don't know if he would be good at anything else. So there's these moments where he's he has like he's like heart attack and all that kinds of stuff, and it's like, you know, he doesn't really pull off the emotions that are needed for that. But it's
Sure.
like, whatever, who cares? Like for this. But
Right.
then you've got this freaking Elias, is that the
Sure, the goth guy.
oh my gosh. Like
You didn't like that.
I hated every second of him.
That was like the one thing I found funny about the movie.
I can't stand it because I know that like okay, so the thing about Kevin Smith, what you said about him is true. Like I do like hearing him tell stories.
Sure.
He's a great storyteller, like speaking.
Uh-huh.
And but I can tell that the stuff he finds funny. Like there's some stuff that he finds funny that I am on board with.
Sure.
But the stuff that he truly finds funny that he writes down on paper and then films and probably has a ball recording
Sure.
is that crap.
Right.
And it's like it's him, it's the Kevin, it's the Jason, it's the Jay and Silent Bob stuff. That's what he truly finds funny.
Mhm.
It's all the sexual jokes. It's all that kind of stuff. Like, fine, I'm not against any of those things. I'm just saying those are just to me that should be like Jay like coming in and saying snoochie boochie or whatever and like doing a little like ska dance or whatever for 5 seconds. Like, sure, I'll take it. 5 seconds. That's just enough.
Sure.
And it's fine to transition to another scene.
Mhm.
But having a character that is that way the whole movie, I don't know. I mean, like, I know he actually made a whole he's made plenty of whole movies with Jay and Silent Bob.
Uh-huh.
And I don't hate them. I don't hate them as much as I hate this guy. But I don't know. It's just it's that whole thing about like how every time he comes in he has a new like he's deeper
Yeah,
into
new
this
outfit.
Satanism and stuff.
Yeah.
I like that's fine. It's fine, but I don't know. I try to like there are like have you ever seen the show from Canada with the three like
The Trailer Park Boys?
it's not the Trailer Park Boys, but it's like that type of I cannot remember the name of this dumb show. Sorry everyone. But it's
Spenny, Penny, and something.
oh no, but it is something like Kennywood. It's like Kenny something. Dang it.
Okay.
Something Kenny, right?
All right.
And it's just about redneck Canadians who live in this town.
Okay.
And there is a freaking goth kid in there.
Okay.
And it's the same kind of thing, like
Letterkenny?
Letterkenny.
Letterkenny.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's the same thing. It's like everyone in the show is out of control. Like they're all like very big caricatures.
Mhm.
But he's just this like he seems like he's more than what the show is. And that's how I feel about this. Like it's just too much. It's too broad for this broad movie.
Sure.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean I think the charm, the reason why original Clerks worked at the time and stands the test of time is not because it's an acting powerhouse
No.
or a production powerhouse or any of those things. It's because it was authentic. It was like the story of it is evident in what the final piece is.
Yeah.
A bunch of people getting together, making a movie for almost nothing,
Yeah.
putting their own experience into the script of the thing. And putting into theaters in front of a mass audience a culture that just was not being represented at the time. I think all of those things carry it to this day as something that somebody who is interested in comedies or people who are interested in the history of film, those are reasons just to watch Clerks beyond whether you find it funny or not.
And the fact that it's not really, it's almost not a story. It's like a collection of dialogue scenes, right? Where there's a thread. Like I think that's what made that work so well is that I think this is where Kevin Smith, I think maybe this is it, right? So he's good at I think he's good at those little dialogue scenes.
Mhm.
But like creating a story that links all those together, I think is maybe the weak point, right? So like that's why Clerks works because who cares ultimately about what happens to these guys? You're hearing these funny moments and they're talking about Star Wars and having like intense conversations about this and they're and then a customer comes in and they're arguing with them about something but it's like
Yeah.
But so then when you add these other, like when you leave the store and now you're at the hospital and stuff, you're like, I don't know. Like that's why Clerks 2 was, I think Clerks 2 is also kind of like anytime you're like out of that element, now they're having to build this. It's like playing a Mario game. Like no one cares about the story of Mario. Just
Sure.
get me to the cool levels.
Right.
Like each level is cool.
Yeah.
And who cares about the stupid like space princess who shows up this time or whatever? Because it
Right.
doesn't matter.
Right. As long as the game's good. And
Yeah, as long as the levels are fun and I can get into it.
Well, I think maybe Kevin Smith probably, I guarantee I've heard him say, was surprised that like the movie got as big as it did and
Yeah.
like the critical acclaim and stuff like that. And I think he has probably spent the better part of 30 years trying to figure out why people like that movie. You know what I mean? And he's tried different combinations of elements from Clerks. You know what I mean? He's tried the broad comedy. He's tried the nerd talk. He's tried the sentimental side of it. He's tried all these different things in different combinations over the years. Some of them are just pure Hollywood, side projects to see if he can get the bag here and there.
Yeah.
But the ones that you can tell he has his heart invested in, I think are just combinations of what he thinks maybe Clerks hit on.
That makes sense.
None of it works on the same level as the original to me. Even if you look at Clerks 2, like Clerks 2 is an obvious attempt to take the Clerks formula and put it into the same format as comedies that were popular in 2010.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. And like you can't, like Clerks is not a broad comedy. So to blockbuster it like or whatever, to broaden it is like a weird, it's not the move to make. And Clerks 3 I think tries to rein it in, but then all of a sudden Elias comes in and that's Clerks 2 or whatever.
And he's
like,
still has elements of that.
Yeah. And also I don't like, I love characters who make fun of Christians because I'm a Christian. It's fun to get made fun of. I think that's funny. And especially the wackiness that Christians are getting up to these days. Like I love that.
Right.
But when it is done to like when it's a caricature of something that I know is not like a real caricature of someone, like there's no person who has that's like this character. It loses the joke for me, and that's because I'm too close to it, obviously. But also there are like massive targets that are so easily joked about in Christendom.
Sure.
And so when you pull this weird one that everyone's like, oh, look at the dumb guy, but like there's plenty of dumb guys that are way more realistic, but who cares if it's realistic? But these are just little
I
little
think
things that hit
with
me.
Elias specifically and his goth outfits, I think it was literally the visual that made me laugh.
Sure.
There was nothing he was saying that was making me laugh.
And I hate the way he said everything.
Yeah.
I hated the way he said everything.
But I also don't like him in Clerks 2 either.
So that's right. He works at the Moo.
He's kind of the young guy who Randall berates through most of Clerks
that's
2.
right. And is he a Christian in that?
He is, but not hardcore like
not the way he is
in
in this.
Yeah.
Yeah. But these are all like little minor things, like. But it's like another truth about this movie is that I'm struggling to. I watched this just a couple days ago, and I'm struggling to really like remember a lot of it. Like it's just.
I remember the broad strokes, but I don't remember specifics because none of it. I enjoy it. Just to get to it, I enjoyed the movie in general because it felt like the people making the movie had a lot of fun making the movie.
Yeah.
And so when I get to go through my friends' vacation photos, I enjoy that. It's fun for a while. Hearing how much fun they had.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Getting to be a part of it even though you weren't there.
Sure.
That's kind of the same feeling this movie gave me.
Yeah.
I couldn't recall my friends' vacation photos.
No.
Because they're not going to stick with me. Just like this movie's not going to stick with me either. I'll remember, just like I remember my friend went to Africa, I'll remember that in this movie, they made Clerks. You know what I mean?
Right.
And the Randall had a heart attack that motivated him to get off his butt and do something with his life.
I
in
mean,
quotes.
I like this. There. Okay, so in my ranking, I have this higher than some of the other. Then I think I have it higher than Clerks too.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the meta. I always like meta stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I like it a lot. When it works, I really like it. And I appreciate this attempt to, like, he's capitalizing on the mythology of
Mm-hmm.
this, right? And I appreciate that, because it's not done in a like it's sincere. Like, he's sincere about all this stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and it's
He's not doing it to make a ton of money because they're not
No.
making a ton of money
Right,
with
no.
these. So
Yeah. And you can really tell, like, there's a lot of thought into all of the, like, Dante really getting upset about him being portrayed in this movie a certain way or whatever. It's really him in the movie that's really the person doing all the stuff,
Mhm.
but Randall's taking all the credit for being that guy. And then where it leads to, I mean, do you do, like, you just, like, people just have spoiler alerts on this, right? Or what?
Try to avoid.
Okay,
You can
okay.
you can talk circles around things.
Yeah.
I think
I
that's
mean-
okay. We can do spoiler at the end if you want to do full spoiler.
Yeah, I'm happy to. Yeah, I mean, whatever. I don't have to, I guess, but
Okay.
whatever you want to do. But they, where it ends and stuff, like the nod to the kind of history of that, even, and
Mm-hmm.
and it was like, him, Dante losing his wife, which is in the beginning of the movie, like,
Mm-hmm.
losing Rosario Dawson is, it is a touching, like, thing, like, just, um like, sad, really sad. Maybe I'm just speaking as a person who's married.
Sure.
And losing a kid too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah. So losing both at the same time in this movie, like, that is sad, and I think how they play all that out is interesting, and it's more interesting than just dialogue scenes, but
Mm-hmm.
is it better than just dialogue scenes? I don't know.
Sure.
Like, if they had this thread running through the first Clerks, would it have been any good? Like, would it have been as good as people remember it being?
Sure. Well, I mean, the guy who made the first Clerks didn't have enough emotional intelligence to
Sure.
include anything like that.
Sure. Right. I agree.
And I'm not saying it's super emotionally intelligent here either,
Yeah, right,
but it's
right.
at least in the story. Whereas in the first one, they wouldn't even put that in the story.
Yeah.
I mean, like, the one thing they had towards the end that I think you hinted
Yeah.
at, they got rid of because it was too much
Exactly.
for that movie.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think,
I mean, you can definitely tell just by the Clerks movies, the three, where Kevin Smith's head is at. Right?
yes.
First one is like, I'm a beginner at this. I don't know what I'm doing, but I know what I like, and these are the things I like.
Yeah.
Second one is, this is what everybody else likes. I'm going to take the thing that they liked from me before
Yeah.
and cram it into that.
Yeah.
Then this third one is like, oh, that didn't work. So now I'm going to do whatever I want. What I like to be is emotional.
Yeah.
And so
And
I'll
think
take
about
what,
my
what
life.
people liked around about the first one, cram it into an emotional mess, basically.
Yeah.
Just try to make everything, every plot point has to be like a big emotional to do, which is fine.
Yeah.
I'm not upset with the movie for doing that. It just completely makes sense to me how that guy made those three movies.
Yeah. No, yeah, I think you're nailing it.
Yeah.
I really do. And those emotional moments, like, I'm stupid, like, I'm really dumb, and even when I'm sitting there and I'm going, oh, come on, like, I'm still, like,
Clear
tearing
what
up.
he's doing. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still tearing
Sure.
up. I'm like, come on, don't do this. Like that happens in Ricky Gervais stuff for me all the time. Like,
Mhm.
like the way he writes his stuff now is in, like, you can tell, like, on the script it says audience cries here, like, and I'm like, don't do that. Like, this isn't natural. And I felt, or it's not earned or something,
Sure.
and I don't know that any of them are earned in this necessarily, but maybe maybe at the end I feel like there's some interesting way it plays out a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm a dummy.
No, I mean, I did. I'm not going to say I got emotional, but I did respect some of the decisions made towards the end of the movie. I thought that was uh at least a bold choice.
Yeah.
Um, I I honestly find Dante charming in the first one, out of place in the second one, and just way too much heavy lifting in this movie for him.
Yeah. I agree with that.
I mean, this is just he's asking a lot of a guy who doesn't really act
Yeah.
on his day to day.
Right.
And he doesn't really ask it from anybody else. Like
Yeah.
Randall in Clerks 2 in the jail scene kind of
Okay.
gets there
Okay.
from the Randall level of like, this is how emotional you'll ever see Randall, basically.
Yeah.
And then there are things that are asked of him in this movie that he just doesn't even attempt, basically. He just jokes his way through it. So he does that for some reason. I don't know why.
Hey, Leo.
You're fine.
Yeah, I think. Oh, listen, I don't remember this jail scene you're talking about.
You don't remember it in Clerks 2?
No, that's again. It's like I have specific things in my mind from that movie, but the jail scene and like 90%, probably like 75% of that movie is just trailer to me.
Clerks 2, if you ever rewatch it,
Okay.
it'll be the one thing you like about it.
Okay.
Is the jail scene.
Okay.
Because it won't be about the broad comedy. It'll be like the first step towards midlife crisis Kevin Smith.
Okay.
It's like right as he's entering that time of life, basically.
You don't think Jersey Girl shows some of that?
Oh, it's in there.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. It's definitely in there. There's shades of it in all of his stuff. I mean, I do think Kevin Smith is like a fairly emotional guy. I'm just not sure he can translate it in a humorous way, in a way that's going to be bigger than the audience that he currently has. And that feels like it's been his ambition for a long time.
Well, his bread and butter is just dick jokes, right? Like, I mean,
Sure.
like when you listen to his podcast, like at least like I haven't listened to it in maybe 15 years, but or however long the show's been around. But when podcasts were first hitting and he was first hitting, I listened to it all the time. And it was mostly about, stories about him and his wife and stuff, like and him being like so, you know, addicted to sex and things like that. That like it, when you watch like the Jay and Silent Bob movies, it is just that's all it is like that kind of stuff.
Sure.
So like
those 2000s movies.
Yeah.
That was like coming off American Pie era. So I think he thought that's what people wanted.
Yeah, you're right.
But even that he's pulled back on here and there. Clerks 2 is pretty. I know you haven't seen it in a while, but it's
well. I can remember.
Raunchy.
I mean, they reference it too. The big scenes everyone thinks about.
It's super raunchy, and I think if you watch Clerks 3, you'd be able to tell the same guy made it. But as far as like raunchiness, Clerks 3 is way less raunchy than Clerks 2. It's amazingly less raunchy.
So what about like Zack and Mary? Like like
that was his Judd Apatow.
Yeah, like
moment.
How raunchy is that? Like I watched it once, like so long ago, and I think I even skipped through it.
It's pretty racy.
Okay.
But I mean, nothing. If you watch his other movies, I don't think it's
okay
beyond the pale or anything like that. It's a rated R movie. It's not an X.
Yeah, right.
Or even an unrated. It got an R.
Or NC-17 or whatever.
Right. Yeah, I think if they had named Zack and Miri just Zack and Miri, it probably would have done better.
Right.
In the theater. It had the stars. Had Seth Rogen like near the height of his popularity. It had what's her name? Stars opposite.
Elizabeth
Banks.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was a big deal at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. It seems like it could have worked. It's just not it's not a title that a lot of people are gonna buy a ticket for.
Yeah. Yeah, and you right, and you have that in your like DVD library or something. It's like
Sure.
If someone doesn't know what that is,
It's like, what
it's
is
like,
this?
okay, I have to hide this thing.
Then
It's
you have
not
to
even
explain who Kevin Smith is
Yeah.
and why it's sitting on your shelf. I have a copy of it. Luckily, I haven't had to explain it yet. But
I think it's in my Plex, I'm sure.
yeah. Yeah. I think if we're going to summarize thoughts on Clerks 3, I would say if you're not a fan, there's absolutely no reason to watch this.
No.
I mean, there you might get a chuckle or two out of things, but even as a
Yeah.
fan, the funniest part to me was the visual gag of a guy dressing like a goth.
Yeah.
Everything else was like, that's kind of charming as a fan, but not funny.
If you're not a fan, you even if there is something in this that would genuinely make you mad or laugh, you won't be able to laugh at it. You will hate it. You will hate this movie, and you will hate even the funny parts.
Right. But as an exercise in watching people have fun together,
Yeah.
I enjoyed it on that level. It's very clear that everybody wants to be there, wants to be in this movie, is doing what's asked of them to the best of their abilities.
Yep.
Including Kevin Smith's script.
Yeah.
I think this is the best of his abilities at this point, and it's what it is.
It's a nice tie of the bow, like a nice
right.
Like on this little kind of I guess it's now a trilogy or whatever, or if this is, I mean, who knows? I don't know what he thinks what joke he'll come up with to make a 4 and bring.
Yeah.
I don't know, but
I would hope this is it for this. I'm sure he'll make another Jay and Bob if he can. He wants to make another Dogma. I've heard him talk about that.
Well, it's one of Mallrats.
Another Mallrats.
But it seems like the last few ones I watched, it seems like each one I've watched has been like something they joked about on their podcast because they play the clip from the episode that they then made a movie based on.
Yeah, Tusk and Yoga Hosers, which I'm sure we'll get into.
Yeah,
are both from podcast episodes.
Yeah, and so I don't know if I don't remember what he did if he did anything in Clerks 3 at the end of it.
He does a thank you.
Yeah,
to fans and stuff like that.
It's
literally sounds like he's talking to you on a podcast.
Yeah,
over the credits.
It's kind of weird. I don't know. Is that going to be like the thing he does now at the end of every movie? Because he's done it like the last 3 movies, right?
I don't know.
Yeah. Anyways,
I mean, I think he knows he's just making them for people that like him, and so
yeah.
What does it matter if you put another 90s song or?
I mean, these are basically like Patreon bonuses.
Yeah. I mean, the last couple ones didn't even have real theater releases.
Okay.
The fact that Clerks 3 couldn't get like a legit decent theater release is crazy to me. I mean, I know he didn't even try from what I understand, but
it was in theaters, right?
No, it was in theaters. It was in theaters by way of like special screenings.
Oh, screenings. That's right. Okay.
Right.
Like
so
he would show up too and things like that.
No, well, he toured with it.
Okay.
Where you get a Q&A live, and then you get then they play the movie in a theater. But they also did like fandom screenings, or I forget what they call them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, where it was like in a week they only had 2 showings. In a week they only had 2 showings, and it was like $25 a ticket.
So it's like if you're like, come see this live Broadway show at your local theater, like that.
It was
kind of
exactly
thing.
that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did they at least give you a Q&A like piped in from a previous recording?
No. I know they have with other movies, but they didn't do that with Clerks 3. Yeah. So it seems crazy to me, but it also got Lionsgate distribution. So I guess Lionsgate was like, hey, you're not going to make money in the theater. We don't want to market it. It'll probably make money on streaming and DVD or Blu-ray. And so
maybe if Weinstein was still around.
Enough. I don't know. That's another thing that keeps me in the Kevin Smith world.
I'm with you on this.
Is his stance on the Weinstein.
Yeah,
he's maybe the only person in Hollywood who reacted in a way that made sense to me.
Yeah, so explain what he's doing.
So if you don't know much about Kevin Smith, I don't know why you'd listen this far into this podcast if you didn't. But if you don't know much about Kevin Smith, his first 5 or 6 movies were pretty much funded by Miramax, which was owned by Bob and Harvey Weinstein. Bob Weinstein, from what everybody can tell, basically took a back seat, and Harvey developed most of their properties.
Okay.
It was also like the taskmaster, I would say. He wrangled the
that's one.
projects,
What's one word for it?
ushered them, was a jerk to the talent. He's a legend. He's a legendary a-hole, basically, in more ways than people even knew.
Yeah.
And so flash forward years later, the Me Too movement happens. Harvey Weinstein kind of kicks it off as a guy who's, abusing women, basically, using his position of power to abuse women. Meanwhile, there's a bunch of directors from the 90s that were in the independent movie scene, Kevin Smith being one, Quentin Tarantino, like the list of directors from that time period that didn't touch Harvey Weinstein is small, for sure. But Kevin Smith and Quentin Tarantino, specifically, most of their early movies, which are the ones that people love, were Miramax films.
Yeah.
Harvey Weinstein was all over them and makes a lot of money from them. So Kevin Smith was the only director that I know of that when all that stuff went down, he immediately publicly apologized, said specifically what his role in whatever Harvey Weinstein was doing was.
Yeah.
Took accountability for his part. Like he basically said, I didn't know the specifics of what was going on. I knew he had a reputation with women of not being a great guy. Did not know specifics. Didn't ask for specifics.
Yeah.
Should have asked.
Yeah.
And what was the other thing he said? Knew that he could be a jerk to people. That was probably enough to not want to work with him anymore. But I still worked with him because he liked me. He didn't like other people, but he liked me, and so I went along with it.
Yeah.
So he admitted that. And then he said that he understands that people might not want to watch his movies anymore because Harvey Weinstein will get money from them. Not to mention it's just tainted art. And he's like, I feel the same way about it. And so I don't want to own them anymore. And so any money that those movies make will be donated directly to Rain.
Yeah.
His part of it.
Yeah.
So at least you know that if you watch that movie, Harvey Weinstein might get his portion, but whatever my portion was, I'm not getting it.
Yeah.
Like as far as he's concerned, it's like dirty money.
I thought that
send it to Rain.
That was one of those like, yeah, you pulled me back in kind of thing.
Right.
Doesn't mean I'm gonna like your movies, but I'll certainly in your corner.
I'll respect you for doing the right thing as best as you possibly can. Like he can't take away Harvey Weinstein's portion.
Right.
But he can certainly say, I'm not in business with that guy anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I shouldn't have been, which is what he said. I shouldn't have been to begin with. Now that I know all the details, I'm making the decision I'm not. And so,
yeah,
literally no other filmmaker has done
it's
that.
insane. These millionaires.
Yeah.
Like, and they still make so much money.
Sure.
Off of anything else. It's so easy. Not even just like everyone's just like, oh, I mean, I guess I should have known. Like there's like so much like,
right.
And it's like, that is the biggest issue in all of this stuff is that, well, no, the biggest issue is the abuse, but
right.
The second biggest is how easy it is to say, I'm sorry. And to disavow past action, knowledge, and to step back and seek help and seek restoration and all the kinds of stuff and still be rich.
Right. Yeah.
Like Louis C.K. never had to come back, right?
Sure.
Whatever. Like, and I mean, like, if you like, I mean, look at someone like Aziz Ansari, right? Like who I'm not saying is the perfect like rebound or whatever, but he did acknowledge he like all the kinds of things, and then he went away, and now he's back, and then in the like mention talks about it, and kind of I don't think he does it exactly maybe the way he should, but like I think a Dan Harmon kind of did a better job at this, but to come back and then joke about the know, like, and go like alt-right kind of like,
sure.
It's so weird. Like, you're just like, it's so easy to still be rich. and still like do the right thing. It just goes to show like it just more and more proves that these people did do these things and they were creepy and gross and abusive.
Right. It's the character of the thing, I would say. Yeah, and I think even though like in Kevin Smith's world, in the example of how he reacted to it, he's a guy who's taking accountability for something that he could have easily just not said anything about. That's what Tarantino's doing.
Right,
People ask Tarantino all the time. He doesn't say anything about it. He won't say whether he agrees with it or doesn't agree with it. He will not comment on it. Meanwhile, I'm not saying he should do exactly what Kevin Smith did, but it would be a step towards saying, I'm a part of the problem.
Yeah.
I'm not the problem. I'm a part of the problem. And I'm going to resolve my part of the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, just.
They won't do it.
Come on, Hollywood. If you're listening, Hollywood.
Anyway. So broadly, I think what keeps me in the Kevin Smith world is because I do feel like he's a genuine dude.
Yeah.
Who pulled a lottery ticket and then kept trying to pull further lottery tickets. And over time, his odds get slimmer and slimmer and slimmer. And he seems okay with it.
And now he's just pulling he's getting the free ticket.
Right.
He's getting another lottery ticket for free. And he's
he won the Mega Millions the first time. Now he's to the maximum $100 win scratch offs. But he's still playing. Yeah. And there's something about that is kind of endearing. I'm not saying it makes good movies, but it's kind of endearing.
I think people who can create people who can create a fan base and have an entire industry essentially, as Kevin Smith has created here, and not be a bad person in the process. I'm happy to give credit
right
where it's due,
and continue to give them a shot.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, if Kevin Smith started making alt-right themed pictures, I'd be out. I mean, there are things he could do that would force me out.
Yeah,
for sure.
exactly.
But he doesn't seem like that guy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. If he started doing a Joe Rogan slide, and I don't want to besmirch him in case you guys are hoping to be guests, but if he starts going down that kind of slide of a weird a conspiracy and whatever, there's a line I have for sure, but he just doesn't seem. He just seems like such a goofball,
relatively harmless goofball.
Yeah, exactly. He just loves his kids and stuff. Wife puts them in their movies and just goes on with his day.
Yeah. Okay. Clerks III. Have we said enough?
I think so. I couldn't possibly say anymore.
So on this podcast, we give 5-star rankings. Half stars are okay, letterbox style. What would you give Clerks III?
So what is a 3-star? That's like
for me, 2.5 is like an average movie.
Okay. All right. I'm giving this then a 2.
Okay.
If 2.5 is average, that's fine. I think this is just one step below that. I think you could make a case for average, who cares? Another movie, but I don't want to.
If I was judging it against all other movies that feel like they're going for a similar thing, I'd probably land 1.5 and 2 as well, which is below what your average would be. As a Kevin Smith fan, I think it's a 3.5.
Okay.
If you're a fan of Kevin Smith, you kind of have to watch this one because it is.
So you're judging this solely on, if you judge it that way, solely on this.
If you're judging it on the Kevin Smith filmography, it's not a completely average movie.
It's definitely in the middle of my list of ranking. So
sure.
It's
on the lower end of my ranking.
I have it in the middle, but my list may not be entirely fair. So
sure.
Yeah.
Oh, I guarantee neither of ours are.
Yeah.
That's why they're subjective lists. For sure.
Mine will probably be rearranged as we talk about this.
That's fine. Okay. So I'm just gonna average those two and say 2.5.
Okay. Congratulations.
So a 2 and a 2.5 for Clerks 3. Now we're going to talk about our, we're going to rank all of Kevin Smith's films. It's a top 10 list, but in my case, I have 15. Is that how many you have?
I have however many movies that I've been able to watch.
Sure.
Which is the same as yours.
Right.
Although I didn't. Did you include the holidays one you mentioned?
I did.
I did. That's not on mine because I didn't see that.
Okay. Well, I'll just say that the holidays segment, which is a horror anthology that came out in 2016, of which Kevin Smith did one segment, the Halloween related segment. That's my 15th favorite thing he's ever directed.
So it's the last.
It's really bad.
Okay.
It's really bad. You saw it, right?
I didn't. That's the
You
one
didn't.
thing I
Okay, you did not
the one
see
thing
it.
I missed. Yeah.
I mean, if you're a completionist, you could watch it.
I will go watch it. I like anthology.
It has
movies
his daughter in
so.
it, so that there might be a little incentive there just because it's interesting to see Kevin Smith direct his daughter, especially since in this, she's a webcam girl.
Okay. Yeah.
Which I think in 2016 made her like a 17-year-old webcam girl or something like that. So I questionable choices for sure. But she's an actress. I mean, I don't know.
He's her father. He can say
right
at 17.
It doesn't get graphic.
Yeah, sure.
In a webcam girl kind of way.
Yeah.
But it is a horror movie anthology,
Sure.
so it does get graphic in other ways.
Yeah. I before I don't know. Are we starting at the bottom and then going up? Okay.
Yeah.
So let me just say this before we. Like to me, I just want to say the best thing that I think he has ever done.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't know how much he has to be involved or what stuff, but I know it would, in my opinion, is the Clerks, the animated series.
Sure.
To me, that is. I know it's not a movie, but to me, that is the funniest, best, most, like my favorite thing that he's ever done.
Right. It's definitely the funniest laugh per minute thing.
Yes.
Because they had like a legit animation studio working on it who like knew how to make things.
and a legit writers team.
Right.
You know, like so yeah. So I think
it wasn't just Kevin Smith noodling
in a room.
Right. In a room alone. It was like he would throw ideas out and then they would work on them. Like flesh them out. Test them with each other. Yeah.
Okay, so with that out of the way, then so
normally we bounce back and forth.
Yeah. So do you
I
want
did 15. Why don't you do your 14?
Yeah, I guess that would be So let's see. There is 15 on here.
Oh, okay.
1, 2, 3.
I'm curious
4,
to know what
5,
you
6,
have that I don't.
7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Interesting. Okay.
We'll see at the end.
Jay and Silent Bob's super groovy cartoon movie.
That's the one I don't have.
Okay.
He didn't direct that.
Okay. But he did. It is in the list of his movies. And that's why I watched it. Let's see.
Interesting. I thought Jason Mewes directed it.
He wrote it.
Right.
So this is one of the worst things I've ever watched. Like it looks like a new. I think I told you this. It looks like do you remember the website Newgrounds?
Yeah,
like a Flash anime. It looks like a Newgrounds movie.
Huh?
Like it's horribly
animated,
horribly, and it's not funny in any. Like there's no scenes. There's no moments where you could be like, oh yeah, there was this part and no, like the movie sucks.
There's no redeeming value.
I was so angry during this movie. And I just nothing redeeming about it.
I've never seen it solely because Kevin Smith didn't direct it. If he had, I would have seen it.
He wrote it. I think since he wrote it, I think that you have to consider it.
You think? He wrote a lot of stuff.
So it says here directed. It says credited as director, writer, editor. Right. I'm using Wikipedia's. Right. And
Jason Mewes isn't the director of it.
All it says is no. I'm sorry. In the list of films, any film that is included in this list on Wikipedia that isn't like a short film or something like that is just film. If he either directed it, wrote it, or edited it, they include it.
They included it.
And now there is no movie where he is only the editor. There is no movie, at least in this list, right? So, but he has either directed or wrote it. And Jay and Silent Bob's super groovy cartoon movie He wrote for sure.
Gotcha.
So I think that is worth you watching. I don't think you should watch it.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
saying, but I think it's
In order to say I've experienced everything Kevin Smith's done, I
Yes.
should watch this horrible movie.
yes,
Okay.
yes. I don't think it's fair that you would not subject yourself to this pain and torture.
I mean, I watched the holidays segment.
Okay.
Doesn't that give me a little bit of credit?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. You congratulations.
Like a 10-minute segment compared to a full movie.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I'll get to it someday.
Okay. Some days.
I am a completionist, but I'm not sure I'm that much of a completionist.
I mean, it's either that or you pay 180 Smith coins to watch Kilroy Was Here.
Sure. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to do that.
Okay.
My number 14 is a movie I watched just this week because I had not seen it yet, from 2016, Yoga Hosers, which is another movie that I feel kind of Clerks 3-ish about, which is like, these people just made a goofy movie together and they seem like they're having fun. I don't get the joke. I get the jokes. I just don't think they're funny. It's a very silly movie. I don't necessarily know who it's for because it's clearly not
His
for
podcast fans.
Yeah.
That's it. Because this
I
is
guess
based on a
so.
story
Yeah.
in the podcast.
Right.
And a character is based on a real Canadian person.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I guess so.
And
I was
this is
surprised how many people they got to cameo in this.
I just think, well, okay, so this is part of his True North trilogy, right?
Right.
So the first movie being Tusk, and everyone who's in Tusk is in this movie for sure, right?
Well, except for Michael Parks.
And who Michael Parks
is the old man in Tusk.
Okay, yeah, because
he had passed away.
Yeah, he wouldn't have. Oh,
Right.
he passed away in real life?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So
I mean, I don't know if he had a role anyway, but he was
right.
gone by then.
Well, but everyone, like, that's what's interesting about it is it's the same universe, but the same actors are playing different characters within the same universe. Like in this third one that's supposed to happen, which I think would be Moose Jaw or something.
Jaw. Yeah.
So like it is, and then maybe even a Tusk 2 would be a part of this.
That's what they're talking about. Yeah.
So like, is like the yoga instructor going to show up in the same place that Tusk is gonna, like, is he like, are they gonna see each other? Like,
right. I forget that guy's name. Justin Long. Yeah, Justin Long is in both of these. I mean, Justin Long has now cameoed in every Kevin Smith movie since Tusk. Maybe.
I mean, it makes sense that he would have, but I don't know the timelines. As
I think he has.
I mean, there's only Tusk, Yoga Hosers, and then Jay and Silent Bob reboot and Clerks 3. Is he in Clerks 3?
Feel like he was,
okay,
but maybe not. Maybe I just
feel like
a
the
lot
Clerks,
of Kevin Smith movies lately.
I feel like the Clerks ones, for some reason,
he's definitely in Reboot. He's in Yoga Hosers.
I feel like the Clerks movies, even though they're part of the VSU universe, obviously, and started it, I feel like they sit in a special place where the only crossover that happens is really kind of Jay and Silent Bob, and then tiny little cameos from like Dante or someone. Like,
That's true.
Like, you're not seeing Ben Affleck in a Clerks movie.
True. He shows up in the Jay and Silent Bob movies, but not in the Clerks movies.
Right.
Yeah, you're right.
So
I think you're right.
I think for some reason he keeps Clerks a little bit more sacred or something.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe he just doesn't need massive cameos to come in on those, but
or he's just saving that ticket for.
Yeah.
You can't call up Ben Affleck for every nostalgia trip movie he's gonna make.
Yeah. Hey, man.
Yeah, but bottom line, Yoga Hosers.
Oh, it's so bad. I have
no clue what,
bad.
Other than the podcast audience, nobody would. I don't even think the podcast. I listen to his podcast, and I don't care for the movie.
It's just not fun. It's not like there's tiny little elements where I was like, man, this could be fun. Like I'm a sucker for high school based movies, like kids and I'm a sucker for movies with kids going on adventures. Like, I love that.
Sure.
So like this has all of that for me. It's all there, but it's just so it's cheesy, like, and campy, and not in the way where
in a forced way.
Yeah, like it's like, oh, they wanted it to be campy and they wanted it to be, but like it didn't like it just ended up it turned over on itself.
Mhm.
Like it didn't accomplish that level.
Yeah, I also thought the effects dragged it down. I wish they had just tried to practical effects. I think it would have given it more charm than like the bad green screen sausage monster stuff.
And the way he plays him, like the way that
Right.
like I don't know if he's trying to kind of make a play on like like a Ghoulies or something like that. Like it doesn't work. It does not.
Well, why not just make it like a Ghoulies thing and not
Yeah.
like a weird Nazi guy under the, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
all of that
there's too
extra
much
stuff.
happening.
Yeah, for
Like
sure.
it could just be those little monsters butt monsters who get into your butt. Like that's a scary enough
Right.
proposition
Sure.
and funny enough that you don't need a Nazi subplot.
Sure. With some guy doing, and not some guy, a guy from one of his podcasts doing Arnold Schwarzenegger impressions for no reason.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
How many scenes in these movies? Or is it just someone talking for a long time, like doing a monologue unnecessarily and with no
real bearing on what's going on?
It's like they're like these are like what this is like what like God, if I have to and I know I'm afraid I'm gonna have to, but if I have to see Johnny Depp as that stupid French character ever again in my life, that may be the line crossed. I may be like, okay, I'm not gonna do this anymore.
Sure.
I mean, he is so bad. He is so bad at that, and that character brings nothing to these things except 30-minute scenes that give you nothing.
Right. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And it would be different if like the Johnny Depp performance was like something big and like noticeable or flashy, but it's not. It's way toned down.
Well, and then he's not even he's not credited even
Right.
in them, and it's like I guess that's supposed to be a funny joke too or something. Like I don't know. They're not. You're right. They're just very subtle. Like you know what's weird? You know what? When I think about it, it's almost like it's kind of like a Wes Anderson style character, like jammed into this movie, but there's nothing funny coming out of his mouth.
Sure. And none of the other characters, which are in a completely different movie, know what to do with him.
Yeah,
really.
exactly.
Yeah. It's weird. Okay, what's your
so if if we're the same, then I just skip to the next one.
Oh, were you 14?
Yoga Hosers is 14 for me.
Okay, then I'll go next. 13, Cop Out.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
wouldn't it be wild if we were the same all the way down?
I can't wait to see. I don't think we will be, but
what's there to say about Cop Out?
So only thing I want to say about it is that I don't hate this. I'm not mad at this movie like I am the other movies. This movie is not good. But I do think it's a buddy cop movie, and it does do that thing.
Sure.
It's not a good one. It's not great. It's not anything. It's just it's a thing, and that's it. Like there you go.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think I generally agree. It's like, what do you expect from this movie with these people in it, with the script? It's about as good as it could get, I imagine, with all those elements together.
Right.
Number 12, Tusk.
No,
okay.
I have Tusk.
We finally diverged. Yeah. Okay, so Tusk, in short, Kevin Smith's horror movie, straight horror movie, body horror movie, disturbing movie. I understand why he did it because it was based on a podcast episode, but failed experiment, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, I have this way up, way higher, and the reason is because I was highly disturbed by this, and I couldn't shake the feeling for a long time. It, like made me sick, like
in a good way,
in a way that I was in a way I don't want it to, like
in a way that you respect what it did to you.
I think so, yeah, because I like I said earlier that I'm a big dum-dum in movies, and so what that ends up doing is movies don't make me feel like a lot of stuff because I don't see things or I miss big ideas, and in horror movies come and go for me. I watch them, I love them, but they don't do anything to me.
They don't emotionally resonate
right.
at all.
Like the only movies that kind of are like documentaries, obviously, because they're true stories, right?
Right.
anything that I could feel would be true or something, right? And there's nothing true about Tusk, right?
Sure.
But for some reason, I got really um my head went there
Sure.
where Justin Long is in this.
Was it all the podcasting that sucked you in?
Yeah, it was just during the credits when I finally heard the inspiration. No, like I hate his character obviously because he's such a douche. But
Right.
what I mean is like I went there where someone gets kidnapped and then you can't do anything about it. And then you are forced into this scenario where you are turned into a blubbering walrus and you can't, like, even if someone saves your life, you can't, they can't reconstruct you back into yourself.
Sure.
Right. So this is the end of your existence.
Sure.
All of that stuff made me sick. Like, cause it put me there. It put me in that sickness.
Sure.
And then in the end, when he is now just the walrus, like, and what the thing that annoys me about the movie, even though is that what is a joke. It was based on a funny joke that they're doing, like, oh, we did this fun, and then I'm sure in the podcast it probably was really funny to joke about and talk about, and then it was funny to hear. And so then there's this movie that it was now a joke and a parody of sorts that has now impacted me and highly and made me feel this growth. I'm like,
that they executed in a somewhat realistic way.
Yeah, that it made me feel like right, and it
the
made
joke is the movie's existence. There are not jokes in the movie.
Right. No, yeah. The
Right.
fact that they made this movie is what's supposed to be funny about it, and so you're supposed to laugh about the audacity.
Right.
And I like that stuff. You know, Tim and Eric, a lot of Tim and Eric stuff is that way, like where you're like the fact that this was even committed to, you know, I love that. So I appreciate that. And that's another reason why it's up there is that I appreciate the commitment to the bit.
Sure.
But it just made me sick. And so I was like, I've got to give it credit. I'm not going to watch it again, but I would watch it before I watched, you know, Yoga Hosers.
Sure.
But I don't know. I do think people should see this. I just,
you think they should see it?
I do think they should.
I think if you're into horror movies, you could.
Yes,
see
I
it.
think if you're a horror fan, I think it's worth seeing because it's an interesting experiment.
Or if you're a Kevin Smith completionist,
of course, yeah,
it's a rare.
You have
one.
to.
It's a rare one compared to his others.
Yeah. And I like Justin Long, and I've always liked Justin Long ever since I saw him in Ed, the TV show.
It is an interesting role for him. I mean, that's a lot of commitment as an actor.
He's playing kind of the opposite character he normally plays, which is the likable, charming guy.
Right.
Now he's playing the douchebag that you are supposed to hate and you do hate. And he's also playing like these shock jock. Sorry.
Right.
and yeah, like it's unsettling in that way.
Yeah. What was your I said Tusk for number 12.
Yeah, so mine is Jersey Girl.
Okay.
And I honestly don't think I'm being fair to Jersey Girl here. Because as a like 90s or like a 2000s rom-com or whatever it is,
it's not that bad.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's totally fine. It probably should be up higher on my list. But it's also like I was just like it's
a forgettable rom-com from the time. Yeah.
And I just didn't like. I mean, it's probably unfair to judge it now. This is the first time I saw it was this week. It's probably even more unfair to judge it now. But like, I don't like Jennifer Lopez, and I don't like. I mean, I like Ben Affleck, but I don't necessarily like him like this. And then the little girl is a little too cute, you know, like too like the trope of the overage young girl or a young kid thing, like is always a little tiring for me. But so I don't know. And then again, like this was just like I could tell like this was just a movie he made. He probably like just had a kid then or something. Like there was like you know there's something that triggered him to write this movie in this way.
100%. That's what happened.
And then the whole like premise of the PR, like I love these movies because they always present these worlds, these careers. You know, like an elementary school teacher lives in a mansion in New York,
Right.
or whatever. Like they create these alternate world. I mean, this is a rom-com criticism, but and so like it's funny to create this alternate world of the PR and that one little thing does this and all this stuff. But also, I hated it. I hated that aspect of it.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I generally agree with all of that. It's going to rank higher on my list, but I think it's more just because from like a movie perspective, I think anybody could watch it. You wouldn't even have to know Kevin Smith directed it. And I think you might get something out of it. It's not going to be your favorite rom-com ever.
Right.
That's for sure.
Right.
But it also won't be one that you're bored by, I don't think.
No, and I like my wife really likes to watch like all those Hallmark movies, and she likes romantic comedies and stuff. And I think if
It'll
I'm
do the
going to
job on that level.
yeah, I feel like if I'm gonna, I showed her Mallrats, and that was a failed experiment.
Sure.
And so I think if I showed her this, she would probably be like, sure, I can get behind this.
Right. Yeah. She won't watch it once a year or anything, get attached to it, but
no, and
it's
she would be annoyed by the more crass stuff in it for sure. I'm sure.
My number 11 is Clerks 3. I think it'll go up over time. I've only seen it once.
So
these types of things work that way for me.
Clerks 3, yeah, I think that's fine. I think that's fair. I like when I'm looking at my list, like my list is constantly moving around now as we're talking about this stuff.
Sure.
I have Red State as mine next.
Okay.
And mostly and the reason why I think it's as low as it is mostly because I was disappointed with how it shook out, like versus
the
what
ending?
I thought it was going to be.
The horns?
Well, like
or the shootout.
The fact that there wasn't any. So like there is no horror to this movie. It isn't really a horror movie. Isn't this is supposed to be his like first horror movie, right? Like I remember it being presented that way to me when I was listening to it. And it really isn't. It's like,
I mean, it's a horror movie in that there's like torture in it.
Yeah, but it's more of like it's like a cult movie more. Like it's more like a
it's a movie about a cult.
Yeah,
sure.
and I like movies about cults, and I was really hoping for more like really like devious stuff. But then but like a good like 30 minutes of the movie is like this long sermon given by the guy that is again another like unnecessary moment in this movie by a character that doesn't help the movie. And then okay, so I was expecting it to be a little bit more like crazy what happens, right? But then the FBI shows up, and I'm like, okay, so this is just they're just playing this out like how it would happen in real life. And then the horns happen, and I was like, oh, okay,
it's gonna go there.
Here's the surprise. Like there is something real, or there is like that was that. Then I was like, oh, cool. So it's more than what I thought it would be, which is like there's a supernatural element to it as well. And then that was just like a little joke. Like
I don't know if it's a joke, but they don't really.
I mean, it's
pursue it,
right? Like it turns out to be just like someone like playing a prank on them or whatever, and it turned out to work or something. Like I don't know. Like it just seemed like a funny. Like he was like I don't know. I wished it was real. I wish there was just more to this than it just. It felt like it did not play out as a horror movie in the way I wanted it to.
Interesting. I think I probably knew too much about it because I knew it wasn't going to be a straight horror movie.
I didn't know anything about it. All I remembered about it was that I can remember listening to a podcast and he was being interviewed on it. I think it was probably like the Nerdist. Like this would have been like
a long time ago.
Like yes, like long time ago.
Sure.
And he was on it, and I think he was talking about Red State. If that was it, I don't know the timelines, but and so he was saying, "Yes, my first movie." And then I was thinking, like, "Oh, cool, like a political, like horror." Like I was thinking, like,
a
whole thing. And no, this was like all of the expectations I had were completely wrong.
It's like, what if the Westboro Baptist Church was actually entrapping gay people?
Yeah, and right, and enacting that justice.
Right.
Yeah,
the justice that they hold signs for and stuff like that. Yeah, it's gonna be higher on mine. I like Red State. Might just be an expectation thing.
I wanted to like it so much, and I loved it at first.
Sure.
I was way into it at first.
See, I don't like the first half, and I love the back half.
Dang it. I love the first half.
Only because
and
the
I'm just
first
like,
half
"Nah."
is really gross.
Well, yeah, I agree with that, but I think that's what I thought, because I thought that's what the movie was supposed to be.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Okay. So my number 11 was Clerks 3. What was your number 11?
15, 14, I think I have Zach and Mary make a porno, but
Okay.
and this is totally unfair because I don't remember
Anything about it.
I can picture Seth Rogen and Elizabeth Banks in it. I can picture them in it,
Mhm.
but I don't know if I'm just picturing the box art or like the trailer. But I know I watched it. I remember that day of me watching it, but I have no memory of this movie.
Sure. I think you could probably rewatch it. You'd be pleasantly surprised. It does
Okay.
have some like Kevin Smith isms. Like he goes a little farther than like a Judd Apatow comedy would go
Okay.
in the language and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the treatment of nudity.
Yeah. Sure.
But from like a Seth Rogen, Elizabeth Banks kind of movie, if you like their movies from that
Sure.
era,
Sure.
it fits in nicely
Okay.
in that world. Especially if you can just kind of divorce the fact that Kevin Smith made it, which is hard to do because Jason Mewes is in the movie as well.
It's so funny
So-
to hear you say that, like this is his Judd Apatow movie, and it's like, oh my gosh, and like every way, like if you did not know Kevin Smith directed and you had to guess, you would potentially say Judd Apatow
Sure.
in based on who's in it and all those kinds of things until you saw Jason Mewes. But
Oh, he's called it his Judd Apatow movie. That's why I'm calling it his Judd
okay.
Apatow movie.
So he called it out.
Like
that-
literally, he made all these movies and they made a certain amount of money. And then Judd Apatow started releasing movies, and then he looked at it, and the Judd Apatow movies were making 100 million plus. And so he said, I can make these. So he literally went and got people that were in Judd Apatow movies
Wow.
and then wrote a script for them and tried to make a movie that would make 100 million. It bombed hard. And that's the start of him saying, I'm done with commercial success.
Okay.
I'll never get it.
What
I
comes
tried
out after that?
type of thing. What comes out after
Cop Out comes out after that.
Cop Out, yeah.
So
Actually, I think it was the 1-2 of Cop Out. So Cop Out's
Yeah.
the only movie he's directed that he did not write the script for.
right.
So he went from trying to make his own Judd Apatow movie to what if I just job out?
Yeah.
People give me scripts, I direct those. They're not really Kevin Smith movies. They're just movies I'm hired to make. That bombed too. From there on, you can kind of see he just starts making what he wants.
That's when
to,
Red State happens.
matter what.
After that.
Yeah. Okay, my number 10. Finally getting to the top 10.
Yes.
Jersey Girl. We talked about it. I think it's still a good movie that pretty much anybody could watch.
Yeah.
As long as you don't mind R-rated comedies, basically.
Yeah. Sure.
What's your number 10?
So I'm counting this wrong, but Zach
Okay.
and Miri was 10.
Okay.
Red State is 11. But
Perfect.
But it doesn't matter. Clerks. I'm just gonna say Clerks 2.
Is your number 9?
Yeah, that's
Me
my
too.
Number 9. Yeah.
Perfect. We matched on that one. I think we talked about Clerks too. A decent amount.
Yeah.
Number 8 for me is Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
Okay, I have Reboot there.
Okay. Both Jay and Silent movies.
Yeah, and I think I mean, you think Reboot is worse, or you think Reboot's better than Strike Back?
I mean, we're getting into like definitely current 2022 James preferences
Yeah, sure.
versus like, do I think Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back is a better movie for your average person to watch? Yes. As somebody who's watched all of Kevin Smith's movies, Jay and Silent Bob Reboot is just a parade of people that have been in Kevin Smith movies. There were so many cameos in that movie. Some that anybody would recognize, and a bunch that you would only recognize if you were a Kevin Smith.
Yeah. I mean,
movie
but that's
fan.
what Strike Back was, right? Too, right? At the time.
Right, but Strike
Yeah.
Back was 20 years
Yeah.
before Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. So
Yeah.
there's far less going on there. All the people that cameoed in Jay and Silent Bob are in Reboot.
Right.
Except for maybe Will Ferrell.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah. like I thought Strike Back was genuinely a funny movie. Like I
A
really,
funny standalone movie.
yeah, I couldn't believe. I mean, I can't believe now that I'm saying that I think it was a really funny movie. Like,
Because you rewatched it and it's not that funny.
well, no, because just only because like it's insane. It's insane. Like he talked about it, how it was like a million, like a massively expensive inside joke. You know, like,
Right.
but and this what came right after Dogma. Like,
Right.
you know, like it just felt like it worked for some reason, and I don't see why it should have.
Sure. Well, I mean, he kind of treated Jay and Silent Bob. He gave him a travel movie, and you know, they
It
cheap
feels
and
like
chonged it
Dogma.
up, basically.
If Yeah, and it feels like a Jay and Silent Bob version of Dogma. Like it does feel like
Right.
he's still in his element
Yep.
in these movies.
I agree.
So I have Reboot there, like I said.
Okay. My number 7, I have Zach and Mary, which we kind of touched on.
Yep, I have Clerks 3 there.
My number 6, Red State.
I have Tusk there.
Okay. Which is interesting because between Tusk and Red State, I think those are his two biggest departures.
Yeah.
And
sure.
we just flipped them
Yeah.
in the lists, basically.
It's interesting.
Yeah, I think Red State is like Kevin Smith's only serious movie. I don't think
Mhm.
there's a single joke in Red State. Whereas in Tusk, I think there are joke. The whole movie's a joke, but there are
right. I think
occasionally
there's little.
jokes.
I think there's little tiny things, but it's to the level that any normal horror movie has.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I really like the shootout at the end, and I like the ambiguity of the horns at the end.
Well, it's not ambiguous. He says what it is.
Do they?
Yeah, they say, like, if it was ambiguous, I would have liked it more. They actually say, no, there is a group of people who live next door to the compound,
Mm-hmm.
and they hate them, and that they know that big massive horn is part of their theology of like 7 horn,
Mm-hmm.
in Revelation or whatever. And so like they knew that if they blasted these horns, that it might convince them
To come out.
that the apocalypse is happening.
Interesting.
And it was just a coincidence that they had done it at that time, that they didn't realize that there was an FBI shootout happening. They were just like, let's just
How
blow
do you
the
not
horn.
realize they're like firing guns?
I don't know. You got to watch the end.
I need to rewatch it evidently.
The very end, Goodman, because someone says to him, I think, what were the horns? And John Goodman just lays it out. And that's where I totally sank out of the movie. I was just like,
interesting.
So it was
right at the end.
Yeah. Right. I was like, dang it. You at least gave me something.
Sure.
And then it was nothing.
I don't remember that. I would have left that out for sure because I
Yeah.
liked the ambiguity of the horns that
Yes.
you just ruined for me.
Sorry, it's not me. I didn't freaking do it. I
I'm
didn't
just-
write this movie.
I'm just kidding. Number 5. I have Reboot.
Yeah, I have Strike Back.
Okay.
And then
we
4.
flipped those two. So top 4, we have the same list, which is not shocking. This is Kevin Smith's 90s movies. Basically, if you look at it, it's literally the 4 he made in the 90s.
Yeah.
Everything else comes after.
Yeah.
And I would honestly say that if Kevin Smith makes classics, these are the 4.
These are the ones. Yeah. Top 4.
Number 4 for me, Mallrats.
I have it there too.
Okay.
And I would have put it higher, except that I rewatched it with my wife, which was a miserable experience.
Mm-hmm.
And it's unfairly, I had accidentally downloaded a 2-hour alternate cut that he released, where it has a whole weird intro where all of the stuff that's happening to the main character, not Brody, but
I forget his name.
Yeah, the other guy.
Yeah.
Like all of the stuff that's happening to him is because of something else that actually, when you watch Mallrats, there is reference to, but it doesn't connect until.
Nor do you need it.
Yeah, you don't need it.
Right.
But it is so long and all of this extra stuff is so unfunny and uninteresting. And I'm like watching it with Meryl. I'm like, I don't know what we're watching. Right. I'm like, I know all these characters. I've never
remember
seen
half
any of this.
it. Yeah.
And she was like, maybe I would have liked it if we hadn't watched this one. And I was like, maybe. It's like, because there's quotes from that. Like whenever I walk into a mall or anything, I always say,
Right.
sometimes out loud, I love the smell of Converse in the morning.
For
I
sure.
always say that. Like just all the little things, like Jason Lee, that was my Jason Lee experience, like the intro.
Sure.
Like he's like everything in that movie to me. And like, but when I sat and watched it with my wife, who was silent and not a little kid, not a
Right. Not a
teenager laughing.
teenager. Right.
Yeah.
Laughing at goofy jokes.
Yeah, like it just it stinks because now my like whole memory of it is kind of like
Sure.
tainted.
Well, and there's like some time specific stuff too that just doesn't.
Of course.
Like when what's his name is like staring at the optical illusion painting.
Yep.
That there used to be in every mall. But
Yep. The 3D. Yeah, those
people
3D
don't have a reference for
magic
that.
eye.
Yeah, magic eye.
Yeah, there's tons of specific to that. Yeah, and then again, Jane Silent Bob, like, I, take them or leave them. Like again, like I don't need them in this movie. I don't love them or hate them in this. I'm fine with it. But also, like, the more and more of them I get, the less and less I want.
Sure.
Even though, is it a Kevin Smith movie without those things? I don't know. Kevin Smith, I like less and less as Silent Bob for sure, because I feel like he's mugging way more.
Oh, absolutely.
And I hate that. I hate when he's just like, moving his head around going, what all the stuff he's doing. Like, I hate it. And I don't remember him doing that in Mallrats and Clerks or in those original ones as much. Mostly he sat there and smoked and
stared straight.
He wasn't reacting.
He does do it, but he does it more. Ever since like Clerks 2-ish, it's amped up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it, and I'm happy he's healthier, but it also, like, his face is way more.
He does not look
emotive.
like Silent Bob anymore.
Yeah, I know.
For sure.
Like, so his like skin is like stretching and it's way even more like,
right.
So
yeah. I mean, he's older and he's lost a lot of weight.
Yeah.
And there is an element to like, so a lot of the jokes from the early movies and even into the more recent ones are just absolutely juvenile things to say, right?
Yes.
And seeing young people say them makes more sense than 50-year-olds saying them.
Yeah. Well, then the joke becomes that they're 50 saying it. So then
it's just not funny when a 50-year-old says it.
Yeah, and it's just not a funny joke.
For sure.
I don't think. Like I'm not impressed by the obscene granny anymore. You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't impress me anymore.
Yeah. And I might enjoy it in the movie that it did impress me because of the nostalgia hit of it.
Sure.
But that's it
at
this point. Okay, my number 3. We'll see if we match again.
We're not going to. No way.
Dogma?
No, I have Clerks as number 3.
Okay. Yeah.
Only because I don't have the same history
with
it as people who do. And I would probably say Clerks probably is in the number 1. I mean, I would assume that that's what most people would say. But since I came to it later, it doesn't hit me the same way the other ones do.
Sure. Number 2.
Dogma.
Chasing Amy.
This one was hard for me.
Okay.
Because I loved Chasing Amy so much. And Dogma was so fun to me. Like, there was such a fun excitement to it. And Matt Damon being Matt Damon, like being super like, who he was in this, and Ben Affleck, like everyone like playing like these strange kind of roles.
It's all pre-mega fame for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And although at that point,
they're
Dogma
getting there.
is after, right? Isn't Dogma after Good Will Hunting?
It is, but it's before the Jason Bournes.
Oh, sure.
You know what I mean? Like,
but
they are on the precipice.
But they are definitely who they are at that moment, right? Like in
they're not
Mallrats,
mega stars.
Mallrats, no. Like, Ben Affleck is not Ben Affleck in Mallrats.
Sure.
Right? And Matt Damon's not even in Mallrats, is he?
No.
Right. Okay. But in this, they are who they are, and they're playing it up, I think, even. The fact that they know that they won this Oscar, and now they get to play this thing, like, they're having so much fun in this, right?
Sure.
So Dogma, to me, so those two to me are interchangeable in terms of which one's better.
Dogma and Chasing Amy.
Yeah.
Sure. So Dogma's your number one.
Dogma's not my number 2. Chasing Amy's my number 1.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Chasing Amy is my number 2. Clerks is my number 1.
I
Clerks. I remember when Mallrats came out, it had a soundtrack that has a Weezer song on it.
Uh-huh.
I think it's Jamie. I think is
Okay.
the song. Although that might not be right. I don't. It doesn't matter. At the time, loved Weezer,
Yeah.
like most white males in the mid '90s.
Sure.
And so, got the soundtrack. Knew nothing about the movie. Knew nothing about Clerks. Didn't even know Clerks existed.
Yeah.
And then saw a trailer for Mallrats before some other movie, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna see that. And then somewhere I heard about Clerks, rented it from the store, saw Clerks and Mallrats like in the same weekend.
Yeah.
Loved both of them.
Yeah, that's a big, and that's your turning
That was the
point.
end of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Basically. Then Chasing Amy. I don't even think I caught Chasing Amy. I don't even think I knew about it until it hit video stores. Like, I don't think Chasing Amy ever got a wide release.
I think that is the same for me too. Like I bought it on DVD.
Yeah.
You know, and I had and I remember just like, again, like Jason Lee, loving him so much, and loving and really liking Ben Affleck at the time, and like
Sure.
And all of the, like, I feel like that movie, of all of Kevin Smith's movies, like that, in that movie, the stories, like, they work, like everything works in that movie. Like it does feel sincere, and it's a good, like, everything's moving forward. There's the little dialogue scenes where there is that still, like, those Clerks kind of like conversations, like all the inappropriate stuff that Jason Lee is talking about, and inappropriate in terms of how you talk about those things today. And even those things, they all work, but they are not they're like in Clerks, that's the movie, is those scenes. In Clerks 2, it's the story, and then there's like he didn't do this right, but in this, he figured out how to do the story but still keep those little scenes in there without getting in the way of the story and stuff. Like, I don't know.
Right. Without getting in the way of each other.
Yeah, like it's almost like he was like Chasing Amy to me is the pinnacle of what he
can do.
Yeah, what he could do. And
right, but that was movie 3.
Yeah.
And now he's on movie 16.
I know. So what happened there?
I
too
think
much outside pressure or something, like to do other stuff like we were talking about.
I think it's kind of, if you're not going to accept other people's input, which I don't think Kevin Smith does.
Yeah.
Generally, he does what he does and is convinced he can't do anything else.
Yeah.
Then it's impossible for you to have like a super extensive, long career. I mean, I can't think of anybody who has been more insular than Kevin Smith from a directing standpoint in the last like 30 years. Maybe Tarantino, because he only directs movies that he writes, and that's it.
Right.
Maybe but he's managed to essentially make movies in the same style, but change the setting over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Like they're all the same style. You can definitely tell his movies versus somebody else's movies.
I mean, and if Kevin Smith wasn't such a good business person, like I said, he created this industry. He has all these little side shows and all these sorts of things happening. Like he tours, he does these things like the podcast. Without those things, he's not making any of these movies because he's
already out of the mainstream.
Yeah. And he's not able to afford to make these movies.
Right.
So like he really, like that's where the credit is due, is like he created his own job at this point.
Or he's managed to maintain the job that that he got that lottery ticket back in the day for. You know what I mean? Like he managed to salvage it even though things went wrong almost all of the way.
I mean, think about the people who do that. You have like a Wes Anderson. You have people who like Quentin Tarantino, like you said, like they're very specific to what they do.
Sure.
And they're able to do it. And what allows them to do it without crapping out like people who can't continue on in their own skin.
Well, Wes Anderson, from what I understand, Wes Anderson movies make no money, but they're
Right.
critically acclaimed, and
Right.
all the people that act in them do it for nothing.
Right.
If those things weren't true, he would not be making movies anymore.
Right. Right. Well, that's, I mean, yeah.
If
I
one
mean,
of those things weren't true, he would not be making movies. If it was just critically acclaimed but expensive, would not be made anymore. If
So
it
who
was
makes,
just, filled with people but not critically acclaimed, he would not be making.
so
it
who
anymore.
makes movies or who has a career where they only make bad stuff and it doesn't make money?
And yet they can continue to do it?
Yeah. Who is this? Is this like,
I can't think of anybody.
I mean, surely I know that there has to be
The guy who makes the Underworld movies?
the Underworld.
I mean, there were 6 of those.
I mean, are they like
Wes
directing
Paul
commercials in the
W. S.
meantime?
Anderson is the guy
Yeah.
who made the Underworld movies.
I mean, are these guys like directing commercials and stuff and music videos and stuff?
Yeah. They do that as well as
Yeah.
And they make movies that they know are going to make a certain amount on streaming and
Right.
on physical media sales, and they get the money back and then some, but not like in a crazy way.
Right.
Not like in a like Paranormal Activity is like another lottery ticket movie.
Right.
Like that movie made just an absolutely insane amount of money.
Right.
And cost nothing to make.
Right.
And also, you can't duplicate it.
No, and they have tried.
I mean, right. Now,
multiple times.
They tried multiple times and they still made movies like Paranormal Activity 3, I think, cost like $8 million and made over 100. So, but compared to $60,000, $200 million, which is what that first one did, it's not even close.
Isn't it crazy that it still costs $60,000
to make a movie in one house where you're just running around the house?
Yeah. With where most of the footage is from like cams,
right?
Like webcams
from normal.
Like, it's like, why did that still cost $60,000? Like what?
Well, why did Paranormal Activity 3 cost $8 million?
That's true too.
It's still just all in one. It's literally all in one house.
So now I don't know how long your shows normally are, and I know that this will be.
They're about 2 hours.
Okay, I was gonna say
we're at 1:45.
Okay, I was gonna say, I apologize to everyone who has to hear 2 hours of Kevin Smith. If the show is mostly less than 2 hours,
we're fine. We're good to go. I mean, our lists weren't vastly different. I don't think.
No,
it's hilarious to me that our top 4s are the same. And also completely predictable.
Yeah. and to be fair, like I think yours was a little bit more scientific than mine was, in that your memory of the movies is a little bit stronger than mine.
Sure.
But yeah, I think our lists are very comparable. Otherwise.
Yeah. Okay, let's bottom line Kevin Smith in general.
Okay.
Despite his best efforts from a filmography creative output, I'm still on board. I have literally zero hope left that he will ever make something that I like from one end to the other. But I like that he still does his own thing, that he still does it with the same people, and that he has not given up yet. I like all of those things about him.
I think it says something that in these movies, there are still all of these people who show up for them to do all these celebrities and stuff. Like it says something about him, that he is probably a good dude. Like that as far as we know, he is because of all the stuff we already talked about.
Sure.
So he seems like he's a good dude and he's well liked.
Yeah.
And I mean, and he's invested in himself. I would never say that a Kevin Smith movie is lazy or like
a cash grab.
Yeah, or something, right? Because I know that he has put all of his effort into these things and he cares about them equally.
For better or for worse.
Yeah. And he's happy to make fun of anything that doesn't work and all that kind of stuff within the movies and stuff.
Right.
So I appreciate I'm still on board, but I'm not like you. I'm not expecting him to make anything that I like these days.
Right. Yeah. but I'm still invested in the effort for some reason.
And there's no way Mallrats 2 is going to be funny. And there's no way Moose Jaw is going to be good. Like, there's no way.
Sure.
And then what's Tusk 2 going to be? Like, if it's not Justin Long as the walrus, like,
Right.
and if it's not, then what is it? And if it is, oh my God, what is it?
Oh, Justin Long's going to be in Tusk 2.
I know, but
I don't know in what capacity, but he's definitely in it.
right. So that's what I'm saying. Like, what if it's a like what if it's a movie about him? Like, how disgusting? It can't be about him, but if it is, like, how disgusting is this movie going to be?
Sure. Well, from what I've heard, Tusk 2 is more comedy than comedic horror.
Okay.
And that it has something to do with him being at like a SeaWorld.
Oh God,
Like
this
him
is gonna be
existing at a
so bad. This is gonna be so bad and disgusting.
And hopefully, like a fun kind of bad. That's what I'm hoping for. That's what I hope for with all of these at this point.
Of course, but it's not gonna be. It's gonna be so like it's gonna be so purposefully. Like, he's gonna do so much stuff where he's like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be so funny. And he'll laugh through every step of the process.
Sure.
And then when it comes to us, we have to laugh at it. It's not going to work.
Right. Yeah.
It's like that movie, Your Highness.
I saw it once.
Yes.
Never seen it since.
Right. And
I have it over there.
Yeah. And
have not watched it.
It's after Pineapple Express. It's like the Danny McBride, like Justin or
The Last Gasp.
David Gordon Green, like this is like, oh my gosh, like another one from them, because they're like my favorites after Observe and Report, right? It's like they're like my favorite guys. And then I could just tell that in this movie they were having the time of their lives, laughing their asses off. I could tell. But it does not work for anyone who's not making the movie too.
Sure.
If I was on set, I'd be loving it. I probably would have laughed. I'd be like, this movie's gonna be the funniest movie ever made. But not being there, it's like walking into a room of people laughing. And you're just like, what's so funny, guys? And then no one can say.
Right.
Oh, you had to be here.
Yeah.
That's the biggest you had to be here ever.
Yeah. I could see that. I need to rewatch it. Because I remember it being completely trashed at the time.
Mhm.
And then I saw it and I was like, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I think maybe if I was to rewatch it, it might be funnier the second time.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. I mean, I would say instead watch Observe and Report again and ignore.
I've seen that like 3 or 4 times.
I've seen it so many times.
I like that movie. Other than the scene you're talking about.
Yeah.
Although that's been discussed openly by everybody involved.
I can't
forget her
remember. Anna,
And
the one married to.
yeah.
yeah.
Used to be married.
Yeah, used to be. Yeah.
Right.
What has been said about it? I mean, are we talking about that now at the end of this?
we don't have to get super into it, but there's an assault in that movie.
Yes.
And the girl, the female portrayed in that movie is drunk, and then there was controversy around it.
Yeah.
She's playing drunk. She's not literally drunk.
Yeah.
And then there was a lot of blowback
Mhm.
towards Seth Rogen as a person who was in the movie.
Yeah.
Not his character. Like,
Yeah.
They were like, how could you make a movie where you're doing that? And he's
Yeah.
like, I was acting.
Yeah. Right.
In a thing that was scripted.
Mm-hmm.
So take it up with the people who wrote it, basically.
Yeah.
Which is not the answer people wanted in that moment.
Yeah.
And so he got a lot of hate for it. Whether that's justified or not is up to you. And then years later, Anna, who I can't remember her last name, which is awful. I'm going to look it up because I think it's worth. She went online and basically said, I was the actress in it. I read it. I knew what it was. I played the part. I didn't get assaulted because it's a movie.
Yeah.
None of the characters are nice people in this movie. Not saying anybody a character deserved something over another, but
Yeah.
it is what it is, was basically her thing. And she basically said, anybody that's mad at Seth Rogan, I don't understand.
Yeah. Has David Gordon Green talked about it?
I don't think he's ever talked about it, but I also
Or no, not him.
he didn't get any.
It wouldn't be him.
He
It
didn't
was,
really get any heat for it. Only Seth Green did.
No,
Seth
who's
Rogen did as the character.
But who's the director? It's not
Um,
David Gordon Green. I didn't mean him. I mean his McBride's partner.
right. I know who you're talking about.
Um,
Jody Hill.
Yes, that's who wrote it.
Right. I don't remember him getting Anna Faris.
Anna Faris
Is the name we could not remember.
You know, I remember that, and I remember people complaining about that, and I think I remember trying to put it into context myself of like trying to defend like the movie from that scene.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I would have had the same response today, but also like being that it's a movie and that this character is not a character you're supposed to sympathize with, even though you ultimately you do.
Sure.
You know, I think that's always the
you sympathize with his character?
No. Okay, so
like on any level? I never do because he's like an a-hole through the whole
Of course
movie.
he is. No, what I'm saying is like that is the MO of Danny McBride and Jody Hill things, right?
Sure.
Is that there's no redeemable characters, but there is a character that you ultimately end up siding with, and you don't, even though you shouldn't, right?
Right.
You know, like we side with in Righteous Gemstones and all that stuff. We side with McBride sometimes, and we side even though he's the horrible.
I haven't seen it, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and we side with other people and stuff like that. But ultimately, you do kind of side with these people, even though they're just the worst people ever.
Sure.
And so, like, and that's what he is too. But also, like Joe, I mean, let's wrap up this on this. But also, like, Jody Hill does kind of make a wink to this in that into that scene where, because right before that scene, he throws out all of his drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He has to take drugs for his like schizophrenia or whatever kind of disorder he has. He throws them all out. He doesn't take them anymore. And then from the rest, that's the true turning point of the movie. For the rest of the movie, wild stuff happens.
Mm-hmm.
And Jody Hill kind of, in some interview, he kind of hints at did that even truly happen? Or was that just all in the mind of him?
Oh, really?
For the rest of the movie. Because he's like a super strong, a really great fighter. He's fighting off the cops. He gets out of
everything goes bad for him up to that moment,
and then it all goes good for him, and he becomes the security.
I mean, it all goes good.
Yeah,
you know,
for that character's goals,
world. Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
It's interesting. Like when you look at
he starts failing up, I would say.
Yeah.
Right.
And you know, he sleeps with the girl, and it's an assault, but she you know, says no, I want to do this a couple times, like even during the, you know, like,
and he still should say no,
right?
But
according to, and then if he's not on his medicine and stuff, like in his mind she's saying yes, and then in his mind all of this stuff is happening. So like there's this like back end of the movie that changes if you think about it through that lens.
Sure.
And I don't know if he's doing that to be cute for us to have fun watching it, or if he intended that from the beginning, you know?
Right.
If this interview was just kind of like a bit, or did he really? Because he talks about that being parallels to like Taxi Driver or something. It's interesting. I love that movie.
I've never thought of Observe and Report and Taxi Driver in the same sentence.
He talks
I guess it kind of makes sense because they're both about like frustrated males.
Yeah. He talks about the. This was just during the time when I was like really into the movie. I was seeing lots of interviews and stuff with him. Thank you for indulging us.
Wow. Yeah, Jody Hill also did Eastbound and Down and Vice Principals.
Yep.
Have you seen Foot Fist Way?
Yes, that was the first one, right?
Yep.
That's the same kind of Clerks kind of. That was there.
It's a Clerks beginning for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That movie doesn't. I don't think that movie holds up as much as it did, but I freaking loved it when it came out.
Is Righteous Gemstones any good?
Righteous Gemstones is amazing.
Okay.
They're my favorite people, so or in my top favorite people. So like I'm biased towards anything they do. But Righteous Gemstones is definitely amazing. And what I was talking about earlier about making fun of Christians, like this is the way to do it. Like nailing. I mean, make fun of Christians. Do everyone make fun of us? I don't care. That's not. I'm just saying like this is a realistic portrayal of people. And,
Sure.
And it is like it mirrors my upbringing
It
a little bit.
It earns the comedy.
It earns it really hard. Yeah.
Interesting.
And also
have to check it out.
McBride, he interviews and he says like he took his mom is a Christian. And he took great pains to make sure that what he was making fun of was the business and not
the
just
people
who
not
just
the people. Yeah.
innocent people who are just believing this or whatever, you know.
Interesting.
Thought that was funny.
I'll have to check it out.
Do it. Thumbs up.
Well, thanks for joining me, Nathan.
Yes.
This was fun. I wanted to talk about Kevin Smith. We definitely
Finally
did that.
You got to talk about it.
Thank you for listening to this episode 553
Jeez,
of the
that's
Cinereelists
so much
podcast. Don't forget, check out the video version on YouTube. Support us on Patreon, patreon.com/Cinereelists. Leave us an Apple Podcast review or send us an email to heyguys@cinereelists.com. Send a comment, a question, a list suggestion, a movie suggestion, any of those kinds of things. We appreciate getting via email. You could also find the podcast on social media on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, or Instagram at Cinereelists, or you can find me, my personal Twitter or Letterboxd account at YoJRB. Other than networkspecialpodcast.com, where can people find you, Nathan?
Well, you can find my graphic design portfolio
Okay.
at nathансmart.com. Or yeah, a lot of Nathan Smarts. If you look up Nathan Smart, you'll see my stuff usually, or a boy singer in Australia.
Oh, do you share a name with?
Yeah, he actually tried to buy my MySpace one time.
You didn't sell it to him?
No, well, he wanted it for free. I should say I offered to sell it to him, but he would not.
He didn't bite.
No, he said, "Can I have it? I want to use it." And he said, "I'll link to you." And I said, "No, I'll sell it to you." And he said, "No." He got mad and said no. But you know, in the end he won because MySpace is gone. Now he doesn't need me. But yeah, look, Nathan Smart or Nathan Shear, but just go to networkspecialpodcast.com. That's all that really I'm interested in projecting.
Gotcha. Cool. Well, I'll be back next week with Zach and Kyle. I don't know what we're talking about. Probably Weird Al's new movie, which comes out this week.
Man.
Yeah.
I'm going to sneak in and be on that episode too.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah,
for
I'm
sure.
excited about that.
We'll see. Did he didn't direct UHF, right?
No, that was Jay Levy, I think.
But he wrote it?
Yeah, he wrote it with Jay Levy, I think.
Okay.
But he did write it.
But this new one isn't directed by Jay Levy, but I think he wrote this new one, or at least co-wrote it.
I think Weird Al helped write it.
Right.
I don't know if Jay Levy. I don't know.
I don't think Jay Levy's
Weird Al
involved at
fans,
all.
do not freaking call in. Do not complain about this lack of information.
Yeah, I don't think Jay Levy's involved with this one at all.
Okay,
as far as I know. I guess he's out of the picture at this point.
That's a shame. Jay Levy famously played Gandhi in Gandhi 2.
Sure.
2 trailer.
Yeah.
UHF.
I love UHF for
Yes.
sure. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. Until then, keep it cinereal.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.